Well, today on the bench we have this Schumacher little booster pack, and these can be handy because you can actually charge your devices, charge it back up, has a built-in flashlight, and here's our 12-volt booster output that we can hook up with these really nice EC5 connectors, which are rated for around 120 amps, I believe. So we got the charging cable, the manual, and we do have the jump starter leads with it, evidently for polarity protection, and maybe even a certain amount of time. We might look into those as well, but we definitely want to look into this because it's not coming on. You even cut it on, no flashlight, nothing. We try to charge it, which obviously is probably dead, and I can even do a voltage check. We try to charge it up. It shows 0%, like it's trying to charge, but we're going to let this sit here for just a few minutes, and I'll show you it goes up really slow, and then within a few minutes it'll just be showing 100%, but it really won't be charged. So we'll be right back. So we see here we were still in the single digits, and all of a sudden it just said 100%. So something is definitely going on with the charging. If we go to cut it on, we show nothing. So chances are this is probably coming straight off of our battery. Yeah, we've only got up to about 4.5, not even quite 4.5 volts. So that is extremely too low on a 12-volt pack. So we'll turn it over, and we got 4 screws here with these little rubber covers, little rubber plugs, either a small screwdriver or a little hook and pick set. I reach in there and just grab those out if you have those handy. And then we got 4 Phillips head screws. So it looks like a number 1 Phillips screw. There's 4 of those. And after that, we got to go around and find our clips. I went ahead and found them, and I put little dots here that'll help you. If you have a similar one, I put a little dot here, 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 and here. There's one in the middle on the end. There's also one here, 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 and here on the battery side. So I'm just going to go through with a flat screwdriver, especially since I know where these spots are. There and here. Just don't want to mar it up. It's easy to take off. It's just hard to take it off without marring it up. Don't want to booger it up no more than we have to. Oh man, that one's already loose there on its own. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 more on this side. So basically the same as the battery side there. And the battery side popped off really easy, and the reason being, I believe that battery is swollen. And there we are, which we have some foam on top, but that battery probably is swollen with some foam on top and bottom. But we do see that our EC5 connector on the battery does come straight off. And we have our balancing or monitoring leads coming off here. So this little board is pretty neat. We got our display board off of it. We're also going to have a buck and a boost converter on this board because of course we're taking 5 volts in to charge the 12-volt pack. We can also take the 12 volts and convert it into our 5 volts. So we're boosting it to charge and bucking it to 5 volts for the charging of our other devices. Also have our little LED module there. So let's see how well balanced the pack is. We're getting nothing on the first cell, 2.5, 1.9, so it's not very balanced. One cell's down pretty low. I'm going to take time to charge these cells and get them kind of balanced. Just bring over my power supply. Just going to hook in some leads here. Because we can tell we got our black and our red, so that should be our 12 volts, and we should have our 1, 2, 3 cells for monitoring. So very typical of a lithium polymer pack, really. So we got 1.9 on this one. In between, let's see, in between these two here. This is the one that's reading 0, so I'm just going to bring my power supply over. I have it set for roughly 1 volt. Keeping my polarity on the red here is positive as we verified with the meter. And I'm going to put the current on about a 0.5 amp. I'm going to be easy with it since it's reading low. And I mentioned before that there's a lot of videos out there about boosting stuff. And yeah, putting 12 volts across this probably would have brought it up. But I do like to see what cells are giving me issues and bring it up slowly and balanced. And if you don't know what kind of condition your pack is, you should not boost it. People just turn batteries over and jump them together, or just stick a 12 volt non-current regulated supply across something. That's just the wrong way to do it. So here we got a 0.5 amp at 1 volt, and it's only reading about 0.2, 0.3 volts, so it's slowly coming up. We just want to make sure it doesn't overheat, make sure we didn't cause an issue. I'm going to monitor this and we'll be right back. So back now, I have this pretty balanced out around 1 volt on 2, and then the ones higher. I'm just going to go through now and do all 3 cells at about 3 volts and balance them out, and somewhere around that 9 volts and maybe below that. The actual charger should charge this up when I hook it back up, so we'll see. So back now I have this jump start fully charged, so it did charge up. We have it turned on. We're showing 100%, and I have this new little load tester. So I actually want to load test this battery pack since my 12 volts goes out and now it's charged up, because it pulled really low for some reason. I just want to make sure that the cells are still pretty decent. Rated for 37 watt hour as a lithium polymer battery, so somewhere around 3000 milliamp hour, because there's nothing actually wrote on the cells itself. I have this set up where if it pulls below 8.2 volts, it'll cut off. So it's actually alarming right now. So I have some tape over that buzzer because it can be kind of annoying. Plus and minus. I'm just going to use these alligator clips that came with the constant load supply here. Now this test is going to start as soon as I cut the current up. See, I like this screen here better. You can see it. It's showing 12.3. I have it at about 1.5 amps. This can handle 150 watts, so we can go up. This is our coarse and our fine. I'm probably going to put about a 10 amp load on it. It's got USB mini, micro, and C. So it's a good way you can load test using those connectors as well. This is going to give us our time running, our amp hour, and it should stop at 8.2 on its own and alarm. So we'll be able to see what the capacity of that battery pack is. I've been wanting one of these for a while, and I have so many light bulbs and power resistors and things that typically I always just rig up my own way to load test something and just calculate it real close. But I do like this right here. It's pretty accurate, and it's a way to kind of be an automated test. So we're still showing roughly 100% left on this pack. It just went down to 98%, so it might drop off kind of quick. We'll see. 95%. We'll just come back and we'll see how the test is going. So we're not quite 3.5 minutes of testing, and we're down to 10.7, about 73%. I'll be surprised if it holds up for the rated capacity. Now, not quite 7 minutes into the test, and we're down to 35%, 10.2 volts. We're still over 100 watts pulling on it. So right at 10 minutes of testing, we're down to 9.85 and showing about 15% on this, which is probably not exactly right. We have run at 17.5 watt hours. Batteries are warm but not hot. I know I'm putting a pretty rough load at 10 amps, but this is supposed to be cranking a car, so the battery packs are definitely going to get a little bit of abuse to them. So roughly 13 minutes, and we're getting really close to 0 on this, but to be fair, they may be cutting these off at 3 volts per cell, which at 9 volts will be close to 0. I'm pulling them down to 8.2 just to be a little over 2.7 volts per cell. We're here getting our warning here on this. Because this can't control the output, I'm coming straight off the batteries. But it is letting us know that we have went below 0% on this. So here we are, we have reached 8.2. And we got 24 watt hours out of this. But we didn't quite make 24 watt hours, so either our battery pack has depleted or it just isn't quite rated as highly at the manufacturer. But we did run a 10 amp load for over 14.5 minutes. So it's not like the battery pack is not still useful, but it's just not nearly what it was rated at. So what happened with this battery, I went to do another load test with it before I gave it back to a family member and make sure it didn't swell worse or deplete any worse. And the second time I load tested it, I won't even have it on camera because I was just doing it before I handed it back. The thing did not do well. It swole worse. I couldn't keep the top on the housing closed. It wouldn't stay snapped. As you can see here, it has absolutely swollen worse. And for around $20 or so, I got a new 4500 LiPo 3S cell. It's almost a 50 watt hour, and it is a 50C, so it should be good for over 200 amps output. One thing is it does come with 12 gauge instead of the 10 gauge in the EC5 connector, so I am going to have to change that. All of them I could find with the EC5 connector were actually physically larger, and I actually did the dimensions on these, just rough dimensions and the ability to fit it into the housing. So I made sure this one is charged. It's very balanced. I'm going to put this one on a load test before I go through the trouble of desoldering and putting these leads on, which won't take but a few minutes to do so. I'm going to make sure this goes through a discharge cycle. So I'll try to have the video of that discharge cycle running up in the corner while I start taking the leads off of this battery pack. So back now, I have this fully charged new pack hooked up to my load tester, and as soon as I turn this up above a half an amp, it's going to start. All my data is reset, so I'm going to go up to around 10 amps. I'm going to let that run about 120 watts drain, and we'll see how the capacity is on this pack before I even go through the trouble of installing it. Meanwhile, while that's running, we'll check on it from time to time periodically. I'm going to go ahead while this pack is discharged and take these loose, and that way this one will be discharged as far as we can take it safely while we solder it back. This does take a big iron because this is a big chunk of metal we're heating up here to get the solder off of. You got to be careful that you don't let your solder drip down to the next one, even though this pack is almost fully discharged. As we mentioned on video, one's reading 0. You still got to be cautious not to let them come across, especially the one that has 1 volt or so left on them. It still get ugly. So I'm trying to hold it up like this so that the solder wouldn't drip down to the next pad. So this is our bad one. I'll set this aside for later. I'll desolder and save these 2 cells for little small hobby projects. Never know, flashlight, anything that you want to make. Those cells still have some usefulness left in them, but this one here is toast. So back now, I was just about to tin these wires for the balancing leads, and this started beeping. So about 44.3 watt hours to get down to 8.2 volts. Of course, if I cut the current down, it should stop the test, because it's just going to kind of ease back up and pull back down every few seconds if I reset it and start the test over. So cutting the current down all the way, we see now that we ran for 25 minutes. That was running about 120 watts, about 10 amps constant load on the pack. The pack is warm, but it's barely warm. It's not hot. It didn't actually do too bad. In a few minutes, we'll check the balancing and make sure they're still balanced out before we charge it back up. That'll be after we solder the leads on, of course. I'm just gonna tin these wires, put a little bit of rosin flux on here, make it easy to take. So back now I'm going to remove these leads off of this fully depleted pack down to low voltage cutout, but it's still a lot of potential here. So I'm leaving the Kapton tape over the positive side, but we also don't want to go across any of the terminals. So I'm going to put this one back here to give me some protection. And I'm going to add some more tape across here just so this connection is open at the time. I'm going to go ahead and put some rosin flux on here. I already got the soldering iron pretty hot. There we go, there's the black lead. Just going to do the same thing with the CL3 balancing lead. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the red wire and the rest of the balancing leads. And we'll be back to put this on. Back now to put the EC5 wire connector on here. Now I just have to tack on these balancing leads. That's also our charging leads. And next here will be yellow. And then our white one will go back here and we'll be done. Just simply adding another divider and some more Kapton tape just to make sure no connection can come across each other. I'll probably add one more layer and then I'll just wrap it all up. We are going to have to tape our thermistor back on top of the pack for protection. Plug in our little flashlight. So now I just want to bring over the charger and see if it'll charge up on its own. So we're showing 9%. This will take a while, but I want to make sure from full depletion that it will charge up with just a USB charger that comes with it. So it's been a couple hours and we're getting up closer to 45%. A quick update after several hours. We at 74%, 11.45 volts. Slowly, but it's getting there. So back now we are fully charged using the USB, 12.54 volts. We cut it on, hold the button in, and then we got our light. That's great. I'm also going to bring over a way to test our 5-volt device power. We also got quick charge. We are at 5.03 volts, 0.89 amps. We switched to 2. The roughly 2 amp puts both resistors as a load. We're getting about 1.7 amps, 4.95 volts. That's working pretty well. So I'll have a link in the description if you're interested in the constant current load tester, and I'll have a link to the cells that I used in case you have one very similar and you're interested in the actual battery pack. Have that in the description, as well as some other tools that I really like and it's really handy on the bench. So if you like this video today, looking into this Schumacher little booster pack with the power bank combo, please like, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching. We'll finish up the video with looking inside of the booster cable controller itself. I was wondering if it was welded, but it does pop loose here. Oh, and just like that, we're in. I was expecting to see MOSFETs. I'm very surprised that it had 4 little tandem relays. So I guess they're monitoring reverse or backwards polarity, and maybe only give this on a certain amount of time. Maybe if the voltage drops down too low, maybe it cuts it off, because this will be coming straight off the pack terminals itself, of course. So these inherently are going to be very, very rough on cells, because they're putting a starter load across these cells, and I guess your main protection is this on your booster. I think I showed it up close of this board, but there it is, just in case I forgot. The little LED module.